Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. Thanks for joining me here today for another episode. The topic for today will be a little bit unusual, something I don't necessarily talk about, which are children's movies. But I wrote a post on my Substack account on using AI to help children with grief, to talk to children about grief. One of the suggestions was to utilize movies as a conversation starter. And so for this episode, it kind of goes hand in hand with that. For what really matters, I'm going to talk about using Frozen 2 specifically as a movie that can generate family conversations about loss and grief. And I think it's a perfect choice in my mind for a family movie night when you intentionally want to have conversations and answer children's questions about loss and about grief. And we'll go through the movie and I'll explain how I think it can be helpful. But the reason all of this came up is that for the past month, my children and grandchildren have been living with me. We're living all together in a 2-bedroom condo, a little bit cramped quarters, a little chaotic and hectic. But I have a 3-year-old granddaughter who's obsessed with the movie, both Frozen and Frozen 2. We've watched those movies multiple times, and it has become really clear to me how helpful those movies are in talking about loss, even with a 3-year-old. And with not going too much into detail, but the family has been displaced from their home a couple of times this year by unexpected, really disastrous events. And so they're staying here, and the 3-year-old is dealing in her own way with the loss of a known and comfortable and safe home, and losing a lot of possessions as well, toys and favorite loveys and special items. And so she is grieving in her own way. And I think that's why Frozen 2 has become so very important to her. So I thought I would pass on what I've been thinking about and learning about from Frozen 2 and how to utilize it to talk about grief with children. So you may not be familiar with the movie Frozen or Frozen 2. I don't really want to recap the entire story, but it's actually based on a fairy tale, a long-term fairy tale, but I can't remember the name of it. But let's just say the main characters are 2 sisters whose parents were the king and queen of a village, and the parents were lost at sea when the girls were teenagers. But the older sister has a special magic power. She can make things freeze through her hands. And so her power is a little out of control, and she's in hiding because she's fearful of hurting other people with her power. And she has actually frozen over the entire village that they lived in without realizing it. And so the younger sister goes out in search of the older sister to try to bring her back home and to make amends with her. So both sisters are on their own journey, but both of them are, underneath all of it, grieving the loss of their parents. And so, this is a common trope, actually, if you think about it in children's movies. It's present in so many movies. The loss of a parent, the mother, or a grandparent. And a lot of these stories and fairy tales in general talk about how we navigate and how we get through those challenges. And they are really heroes' journeys through the eyes of a child, where adversities are faced. There are wolves and bad guys and lots of danger and perilous journeys that must be taken. And then always someone good who comes through in the end. And love is usually the winner. It turns out love is the thing that transforms everything. And that is the story in Frozen 2. But there's a backstory behind Frozen 2. Several years ago, I interviewed Shelley Buck about her book, Leave the Light On, which details the life and the death of her son. And Shelley's husband, Chris Buck, was the director of Frozen 2. And it happens that their son died just as Frozen 1 was being released in theaters. So the entire time that Chris was working on Frozen 2, he was grieving the death of his son. And so when you view the movie through those eyes, a grieving father was writing this movie and sketching out the story and the plot behind it, and even the message in some of the songs in the movie. You will see that it is indeed a tale of loss and grief. And so when you view the movie through those eyes, you'll find lots of different opportunities to actually bring up discussions about loss. And so in a way, Frozen 2, it's a modern myth, but it clearly walks us through the perilous passages of grief that we all face in our lives. So I think it can be watched by families with children of all ages. As I've said, we've watched it numerous times with our 3-year-old granddaughter, who every single time has so many really good questions, probing questions that ask about things like loss and where did the mommy and daddy go, and why are they gone, and why can't they come back? So let's look into that. That is the underlying story that took place in the first Frozen 1. The parents were lost at sea. And so from teenage years on, Elsa and Anna grow up alone in the castle, but they are segregated from one another because Elsa keeps herself at a distance from everyone because she's terrified of her powers of freezing things, that she will hurt someone. In Frozen 2, Elsa has her own particular journey. She begins hearing this eerie, ethereal call, this haunting music that comes from far away, and she's the only person who can hear it. But it calls to her. It asks her to come on a journey into the unknown, and that's one of her songs, that she needs to go into the unknown to see who is calling her and what is it about. And she senses that she's being called to a new life and to change her life, and that this is essential, a crucial journey. So this is Elsa's hero's journey. She needs to go on this trek into the unknown to find out who or what is calling to her and why and what it means. And so Anna is the younger sister who does not understand what's happening with Elsa or what Elsa is going through. She senses that Elsa feels ashamed and embarrassed that her powers caused the village of Arendelle to freeze, and she's worried about her sister. She just wants to bring her back. So Anna follows Elsa on the journey. It's not Anna's journey, though, in the same sense. She's following along, trying to rescue her sister. But as we know, on the hero's journey, other people can't really rescue us. We have to go through the process and all the steps. But as Anna is following Elsa along, at one point, they discover the wrecked ship that belonged to their parents, and it's very real and visceral that they understand their parents are gone. The ship wrecked and crashed, and there's a real moment of coming to terms with the reality of a loss as they walk through the ship and look through the wreckage together. Elsa ends up sending Anna away because she knows she has to finish this journey on her own. She knows it's dangerous. It's not Anna's journey, it's Elsa's. And so Elsa tricks Anna a bit and sends her away. With Olaf the snowman that Elsa has created, who's been kind of an off and on play friend for the two girls ever since they were tiny. Elsa could always conjure up this little snowman, Olaf. So Elsa sends Anna and Olaf away so she can complete her hero's journey. And maybe to finish Elsa's journey, we might as well, while we're talking about it, she ends up going back to these ancestral lands where it turns out her mother was from, and it's the spirit of her mother actually that's calling to her and calling her back. And something has gone awry in this enchanted forest that has done harm to some of the indigenous people that live there. And these people, there are soldiers and indigenous people who've been living together and actually battling in the enchanted forest for years because of a misunderstanding and something that went awry. And so Elsa's journey is to actually correct the wrongdoing that was done. And so that is what she becomes aware of and the vision that she has. But she does reconnect with her mother through the song. And it turns out it was her mother singing the song, Mother from the Spirit Realm, that was calling her to the enchanted forest and to Atahallan, this river of memory. I'm not going into all the details because there's way too much here. But meanwhile, Elsa sent Anna and Olaf away. They end up getting trapped in a cave together and are not totally sure how to get out. But Olaf, at some point, sees some light up at the top of the cave and realizes there may be an opening and they could find their way out. However, Olaf is beginning to dissolve away. His snow crystals are floating off and floating away, flurrying away, he says. And Olaf recognizes this must mean that Elsa is in trouble because Elsa's powers are the force that keep Olaf alive. And if Olaf is disintegrating, it might be a sign that Elsa is in trouble and not doing well. And so Anna in the cave ends up losing Olaf, who completely disappears, and recognizing it is a sign that her sister Elsa is in trouble. And Anna has now lost everyone, her parents, her sister, Olaf, her faithful companion, and other characters that have been lost to her. And one of the most poignant moments of this movie is Anna alone inside the cave, singing about grief. And she uses the words, this grief, and the weight of it that is bearing down on her, and how hard it is to get up and to move on and to keep going. And this is clearly a reflection of the grief the film director and the writers were all feeling themselves as they were in the process of creating this film. So Anna sings a beautiful song called The Next Right Thing. She expresses her shock and despair. She expresses how difficult it is to even get up off the floor of the cave and figure out what to do next, because she's so devastated by these multiple losses that have happened. But from somewhere, she finds the courage to go on anyway. And the message is to do the next right thing. That sometimes when we have no hope, we can't see the way out, we don't know where we're going, all we do is think about the one tiny next right thing that we can do, the very next step that we take. We don't need to have a solution to the big problem. We don't need to see far into the future. We only need to see the next step. And when we've completed that, the next step and the next step, doing the next right thing. It's such a beautiful song. It's so evocative and so touching. And seeing the grief that Anna experiences in such a real and raw way for an animated character inside that cave, that is a lovely moment to really stop and process, what is Anna feeling and why? And what does it feel like when you're so sad that you don't know what to do next? It's a beautiful and touching moment. That song and that moment alone could be an entire discussion for family movie night, just that moment. But there are other aspects within the film. So long story short, Anna does climb her way out of the cave and go out through the opening. Ultimately, Anna and Elsa reconnect. They end up fixing the old issue, the old grievance that happened years ago, that caused the enchanted forest to be stuck in fog. And they end up really creating the possibility for atonement and forgiveness and reconciliation. And the movie ends on a very happy note. Olaf comes back, everyone is reunited, and there's a message of love at the end that is very powerful. So I've talked about Elsa's journey and Anna's journey. Olaf himself, the little snowman, he's quite an interesting character. In some ways, a narrator or a commentator on the entire film. He has questions throughout about impermanence and the unknown and the future. And so he's experiencing a lot of existential anxiety and the fear of change and death. And Anna tries to reassure him some things never change. Like how much I love you, that will never change. And so he ends up being terrified of change, but being one of the characters who experiences extreme change and comes back with a new lease on life. And then Kristoff, who is Anna's love interest, he is a support person really for Anna as she's going on her journey. And he expresses some of the helplessness of figuring out, what do I do? How do I show up and help you? Because you don't even seem like you're here anymore, because Anna is so enveloped in her grief and loss that Kristoff doesn't know how to reach her, and he feels lost in the woods. That's the song that he sings. So even as a support person showing up, Kristoff is going through his pain and his trauma, watching the person he loves as she continues on her journey. So for each of these characters, there's a slightly different theme, but it is a portrait in a sense of how people break down and then find their way through the difficulties that they have. And it states it pretty right out in the open, where you can see it, that people are in pain and suffering. They realize that may not sound like what you want to get into for your family movie night. This would have to be a very special night. And maybe it's a night that comes when you know that grief is on its way. Maybe there's a grandparent or some other family member who's beloved who is facing a health challenge. And you need a way to open up these discussions so that you can start talking about it throughout. Or maybe a loss has already occurred and it's been really difficult to name it and talk about the feelings associated with it. But I'll describe a few of the teaching moments that you could use as conversation starters. The first is this is a flashback the girls have, and it's the song, "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" And it shows how the girls' grief began back in childhood when they were separated once Elsa's powers became so strong, because Elsa once harmed Anna with her freezing powers. And so the parents are fearful of Elsa's powers, and they separate the two girls. And the loneliness and isolation that they've experienced throughout their lives, not being able to play together when they were little, and then both losing their parents, but also not even being able to grieve together as teenagers. So that is one subject to talk about, how grief can begin in childhood over simply losing a playmate, losing a friend, losing a connection with someone. Next, there's a song called "Show Yourself" that Elsa sings, and Elsa sings it as she's on her journey, kind of the last leg of her journey, seeking her mother. And she talks about her sorrow, about going on this, she's on this unknown journey. She knows she has to find something that's waiting there. She knows there's a deeper truth, and that that it's going to change everything when she gets there, and she's asking whoever is calling me, please show yourself. I'm ready for it now. And so it's a sign of courage. As you see Elsa's journey unfold, you'll see her in this kind of triumphal moment as she's riding on in power, singing "Show Yourself," and really saying to the voice that's calling to her, I am ready for you to reveal to me whatever is next. And she's finally in her power. And that's a really powerful moment to talk about how we can get through hard things and losses, and we can actually become more powerful and become stronger once we have navigated those. And so the third moment, I already mentioned the song "The Next Right Thing," which is sung while Anna is inside the cave. It's a model, the words, "the next right thing," it's a great model for talking about what to do when you feel like you cannot go on. You cannot see your way through something. It's so challenging and so hard. You have no idea what to do next or how you can ever do it. And this little mantra, just do the next right thing. That's all you have to do, is the next right thing. I think that's a great family mantra to have and to invoke when there are times when things feel very hard, when problems are big and insurmountable and you aren't sure how to tackle it, where to begin and how to take it on. But to focus in together on what is the next right thing that we could do together as a family. And I think that it's really a beautiful, simple little mantra. It doesn't repress or hide or deny any of the feelings, but it provides the tiniest little map for how we carry them and live with them and just get to the very next moment, whatever that might be. And then the fourth teachable moment, it's utilizing Olaf, who's the humorous character of the movie, as I said, and somewhat of a narrator, but to take some of Olaf's lines. He's very innocent and naive, but also philosophical. He asks lots of really interesting questions, and sometimes it could be fun to just sit with Olaf as a character and look at the things that Olaf asks, what he's worried about, because he expresses some of the anxiety, death anxiety, fear of the future, fear of change that children themselves might be experiencing. And so Olaf could be a good focal point for a discussion as well, and use his questions, as I said, to open a dialogue about death and impermanence. And then after the movie is when I think the deeper conversations will take place. You might need to pause it at certain points and rewatch certain moments that you really want to highlight later to make sure everyone saw it and was paying attention. Like, for example, Anna in the cave when she's singing "The Next Right Thing." And so to start the conversation after the movie, don't ask yes or no questions like, did you like the movie? But something that helps people think a little bit more, like what part made you feel something, even if it was something that hurt a little bit. What part of the movie did you feel your feelings inside? You can also let the kids guide the conversation for the most part. Let them ask questions. In our household, it's the 3-year-old. She asks questions constantly throughout the movie. So we often pause the movie for a moment to hear her question and then answer it for her in the moment if we can. Sometimes we have to say, we don't really know. Like, we don't know why this happened to her parents, and we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. We can't really answer that. And where are her parents now? We don't know for sure. So, but if questions come up during the movie, by all means, pause it and stop and talk about them at that moment so they don't get lost, because they may not be recalled if you wait till after the movie. And then be honest about your own feelings, because you might say, oh, it made me feel sad when Anna was singing her song about grief. Like, it reminded me of how sad I felt when something happened. Like, I felt that way once too. I felt so bad inside that I wasn't sure I could go on. And so I think that's really powerful if you express your own feelings and what arises for you during this movie. And then perhaps follow that up by talking about when you had an experience like Anna did. How did you get up off the floor? How did you keep going? What helped you get through that in order to find that tiny little light at the top of the cave and find your way out of the darkness? Other ideas are to use art, drawing, storytelling, play acting, role playing with children to review some of the lessons as follow-up. We bought the book from Frozen 2, a little simple children's book for our granddaughter, and she now reads the book to us. She tells us the story as she goes through the pages and looks at the picture. It's a really good way to find out what she learned from it, what she's thinking about, what's on her mind, because she will stop in the book and say, why did this happen? Why is that the way it is? Why is it like this? And it gives us, we've had many follow-up conversations. We've been able to review it and go through it again. And so for adults watching the movie and talking about it, I think it's good to pick up the message from the film that grief is ongoing. It's not a one-time event. Grief is really woven into life. It's something that we can feel our entire lives. And for Anna and Elsa, from the time they were little children, they've carried this same familial and ancestral grief that has gone with them throughout their lives. And remember that Anna's solution, do the next right thing, is great advice for us as adults too in our lives, not just a mantra for children, but can be a lifeline for us when we're grieving as well. And then also remember that Elsa's awakening, think about the hero's journey for Elsa and how she awakened. She saw the need for ancestral healing and helped participate in that. So did Anna. She felt spiritual grief work, the loss of her parents, and the whole journey for Elsa was really powerful and profound. And she came into herself fully. She overcame her shame of having powers that could hurt other people and learned how, through love, she could utilize those powers to do good things and be beneficial to others. And so just remember the symbolism of this hero's journey or heroine's journey, however you want to look at it. And remember that we're all on a similar journey like that, and even think about the metaphor of Elsa's journey and our own, and how have we been in the dark sea drowning and what showed up to rescue us from the dark sea, and how did we keep going forward in spite of fear and trepidation into the unknown. So this is my suggestion. I invite you to watch Frozen, probably watch Frozen 1 first if you haven't seen it already, because you'll understand the story a lot better in Frozen 2, and utilize Frozen 2 specifically for a family movie night discussion that includes loss and grief. One thing that I will include with this post is a handout on a Frozen 2 family discussion guide that you might use that might help you. With some questions for younger kids, prompts for older kids and teens, and reflections for adults. So, and even some activity suggestions that you could use with younger kids after the movie to kind of keep it alive, because this is such powerful teaching. It's not meant for just a one-time session of watching a film and talking about it. It's meant to be an ongoing metaphor and powerful teaching experience that you can keep referring back to. So I hope you'll check out the family discussion guide that's available with this episode. And I hope you've enjoyed this little conversation about Frozen 2. I've been really excited to share it with you because it's actually been powerful for our whole family. And it's led to some really good discussions, oftentimes led by a 3-year-old. And so I'm grateful for the movie, grateful to know the backstory and to see that it really was a beautiful piece of art created from a time of deep, unspeakable grief. So I hope you enjoy that. Download the discussion guide and let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me here today for this special episode. And I'll be back next week again with something else to share with you, whatever comes to my mind. Until then, remember, we're here for love, which means we're also here for grief because they come hand in hand. So face your fear like Elsa does. Be ready to do the next right thing and just love each and every moment of your very precious life. Bye-bye.